On Thursday morning, I woke up and opened up the Twitter app, as I do every morning, because I like to get annoyed about something that's going on with the world right before I brush my teeth, head downstairs, and crack on with another grueling day of researching and writing about something random that's going on or has gone on within the world of football. When I saw Matheus Pereira's name trending, I assumed he was signing for someone in the Premier League, having been pretty heavily linked with a move to West Ham. And yet, when I clicked on the Brazilian's name, I was greeted by this tweet from the familiar face of Fabrizio Romano, stating that Pereira was about to sign for Saudi Arabian outfit Al Hilal. My first thought, if I'm being honest, was, wow, what a shame. He's a real talent. I like Pereira a lot. I thought he was outstanding in the Championship when West Brom won promotion, and he notched some 16 assists. And he routinely provided some spark and creativity in a relegated West Brom team last season. In fact, no player in the bottom half of the Premier League table made more combined goal and assist contributions last season than Pereira, who is still only 25 and was playing in a West Brom team that only won 5 games all season. Pereira notched 1 goal contribution more than Jack Grealish last season, who has just joined Manchester City for £100 million. I don't think it is snobbish or arrogant to view a move to Saudi Arabia as being a waste for someone so talented and so young. And the same goes for someone like Oscar when he moved to the Chinese Super League. Simply put, the standard of football in the Premier League is superior to the standard of football in the Saudi Pro League. And as much as it is his decision, and his decision alone, Pereira will not be testing himself against the best possible opposition as a result of his decision. But once that thought had been and gone in my head within the space of about 30 seconds because, who cares, I began thinking about Saudi Arabian football, which, I must admit, is something that I don't do very often. West Ham were apparently offering West Brom £22 million for Pereira and the player a weekly wage in excess of £90,000. In his statement a few days before the deal was completed, Pereira was refreshingly open and honest. He made it patently clear that the reason that he wanted to join Al Hilal was because of the finances involved in the deal, stating that it would change his and his family's lives forever and that he wanted to achieve financial freedom at the age of only 25. There was no guff about growing up supporting Al Hilal or dreaming of playing in a Gulf state. So that got me thinking, who is funding this deal? Who bankrolls Saudi Arabian football? What is their motive? What are their aims? And might Pereira not be the last big-name player to turn down a Premier League team in order to cash in on petrodollars in Western Asia? So, sit back, relax, and join me on a journey to the Middle East, to a vast kingdom ruled by the House of Saud, who are the wealthiest royal family in the world, where oil reigns supreme, but football isn't far behind, as we attempt to get a better understanding of what on earth is actually going on within the weird world of Saudi Arabian football. Saudi Arabia is a very big country. Yes, I know, we're starting with the basics. It is the largest nation in Western Asia and the second largest within the entire Arab world, trailing only Algeria. But despite the fact that Saudi Arabia is larger than the likes of Mexico and Indonesia, it has just a quarter of the population of Mexico and only 12.5% as many inhabitants as Indonesia. The point that I'm trying to get at is that Saudi Arabia is not very densely populated, so it should come as little surprise that despite being a football-crazed nation, the country did not have a nationwide domestic football league until 1976. Clubs competed in regional leagues in order to qualify for the custodian of the Two Holy Mosques Cup, better known as the King's Cup, which was a nationwide knockout competition created in 1957, and the winner of the King's Cup would be crowned as national champions. That all changed in 1976 though, when the sport's growing popularity and improvements to transportation links between cities facilitated the creation of the Saudi Premier League. Initially, the league was made up of just 8 teams, from 4 different cities, competing in a 14-game season, but now the league consists of 16 teams, spanning 12 different cities, battling it out across a 30-game season to be crowned as champions. Saudi Arabia now has 3 nationwide leagues in fact, the Saudi Pro League, the Saudi First League, and the Saudi Second League, followed by a fourth tier which is part of the Saudi Football League system but is made up of 21 separate regional subdivisions consisting of a whopping 121 teams in total. Football turned professional in Saudi Arabia at the start of the 1990s, and there appeared to be an immediate uptick in the fortunes of the country's national team. Saudi Arabia qualified for the World Cup for the first time in 1994, beginning a run of 4 successive finals that the country appeared at. In 2008, the Saudi Premier League was renamed as the Saudi Professional League, and there was a slight injection of state cash that saw a brief influx of big-name foreign players arrive in the league, typically towards the end of their careers, and typically not sticking around for long. The Saudi Pro League was state-owned, as were all of the league's clubs. They were able to generate revenue through traditional means, such as ticket sales, TV deals, and sponsorships, but they also received government support and the occasional backing of wealthy donors and supporters. In 2013, an advisory committee outlined the biggest overhaul of Saudi Arabian football in a generation, with plans to privatise both the league and all of the league's clubs. This committee was headed by Abdullah bin Musaid Al Saud, a football-mad Saudi prince who is the grandson of Ibn Saud, the founder and former king of Saudi Arabia. Abdullah is not believed to be one of the wealthiest Saudi princes, with an estimated net worth of somewhere in the region of £200 million. But he still put that money to work within the world of football, acquiring the likes of Sheffield United in England, Beerschot in Belgium, Kerala United in India, and Al Hilal United in the United Arab Emirates. Abdullah and the committee's plan was to try and attract wealthy investors to acquire clubs in the hope that they would then invest in a club's infrastructure, playing squad, and youth development, thus increasing the interest in the Saudi Pro League, increasing the number of fans who attend games, and increasing the quality of the Saudi Arabian national team. It was a system openly based largely on the Premier League's operation model, and the committee hoped that with these changes, the league wouldn't just grow its domestic audience, but would be able to strike lucrative TV deals with the likes of Al Jazeera and Abu Dhabi Television, by attracting the best players of any league in the region. Football is by far the most popular sport in Saudi Arabia, and there is a lot of support for Saudi Pro League teams within the country and even beyond, with considerable followings for some Saudi clubs in Egypt and Kuwait. Almost every football fan in Saudi Arabia follows a Saudi Arabian team, but they also tend to follow a European team, or at least tune in to watch European football on a regular basis. So while Saudi Arabian clubs have lots of fans, outside of really decisive games and big derbies, attendances can be quite low. In the 2017-18 season, which was the most recent season I could get accurate data from, the average capacity at Saudi Pro League stadiums was 33,273, compared to 37,644 in the Premier League, but the average attendance in the Saudi Pro League was just 5,726. Meanwhile, Premier League stadiums are, on average, almost always full and quite often oversubscribed in terms of getting tickets. This isn't just a problem facing Saudi Arabia's domestic football league, but a wider one throughout the Gulf. In Qatar, clubs have even experimented with giving away prizes, including hundreds of thousands of dollars and a Ferrari to supporters who attend games to try and improve their attendance figures. As in, your matchday ticket functions like a raffle ticket rather than just everyone who turns up gets a new Ferrari, in case there was any confusion. The privatisation of the Saudi Pro League and its teams was part of Saudi Arabia's grand Saudi Vision 2030 strategy, pioneered by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who I have made 2 videos about in the past, so I won't get too drawn into talking about him again. The Vision 2030 project can be viewed in many different ways, and has far-reaching aims, stretching from expanding Saudi Arabia's military spending to projecting a more secular and progressive image of Saudi Arabia around the globe. But its main aim is to reduce Saudi Arabia's reliance on oil as a lifeblood of its economy, and to expand other business sectors and revenue streams. In terms of image, infrastructure, leisure, recreation, tourism, and even economics, sport plays an important role within these plans, and no sport more so than football. However, the reality is that since the supposed privatisation of Saudi Arabian football, not much has actually changed, or at least not much that was supposed to change. The league is still state-owned, all the clubs are still state-owned, and their business model hasn't really shifted. No doubt this was a multi-year plan, but it has been 5 years now, and none of the Saudi Arabian football fans who I spoke to whilst researching this video could tell me of any great structural changes that have occurred during that time that were outlined as part of those privatisation plans. One of the fears that the committee had at the time was that the privatisation of specific clubs, who would now be owned by companies or more likely individuals, would prevent other wealthy locals and fans from making donations to clubs, which was such a vital source of revenue for these teams and particularly for the league's biggest clubs. They hoped that in the long run, the increase to other revenue streams like TV deals and sponsorships would outweigh the losses incurred by fewer donors just handing over cash. However, with the league and no clubs actually having been privatised, what has happened has almost been the exact opposite of what was anticipated in 2016, with the exception of the league having made some high-profile signings. There has been a big increase in spending, you only need to look at the signings of certain clubs to know that. Matheus Pereira may be the biggest from an English perspective, and even from an objective standpoint given his age, transfer fee, and the interest in him from elsewhere, but he certainly isn't alone. At Al Hilal alone, the club that he has signed for, he will be joined by the likes of Sebastian Giovinco, Luciano Vietto, Musa Marega, Bafatimbi Gomes, and Andre Carrillo, among others. And he will be coached by Leonardo Jardim, the man who won the League and Manager of the Year award in 2016-17, after guiding a teenage Kylian Mbappe and co to the League and title at Monaco. Those are all players and managers who wouldn't look at all out of place in any of Europe's top 5 leagues, and it was little surprise that Al Hilal won the Saudi Pro League title last season. Again though, they are certainly not alone. The best paid player in the league, according to reports, is former Valencia, Sevilla and Argentina star Ever Banega, said to be earning over £175,000 a week at Al-Shabab, where his teammates include former Hull City loanee Alfred Ndiaye and recent Manchester United loanee Odion Ighalo. Yes, I did manage to find a way to mention Hull City, even in a video about Saudi Arabia. Then you've got Gonzalo Martinez at Al Nazir, Bastos at Al Ain, and Karim El Ahmadi at Al Ittihad. They might not be household names, but they are very talented footballers, and they're not playing in Saudi Arabia because they like the sunshine and sand. Saudi Arabian clubs are at a distinct advantage when it comes to attracting players financially, since in Saudi Arabia there is no income tax. The Athletic reports that the life-changing wage, as he described it, that Matheus Pereira has been offered by Al Hilal is equivalent to £77,000 a week, which is likely less than he would have been offered by West Ham. But the difference is, £77,000 a week at Al Hilal means £77,000 a week straight into your bank account. £77,000 a week at West Ham is just over £41,000 a week after tax, the vast majority of that amount being taxed at the UK's top rate of income tax, which is 45% plus national insurance. Nonetheless, paying a player £77,000 a week, or over double that amount in the case of Pereira's teammate Sebastian Giovinco, is a hell of a lot of money for a club that averages around 12,000 fans at their home games and doesn't have anything like the TV revenues that Premier League teams have. Al Hilal simply do not generate the amount of money required to maintain a squad like the one that they have, or to sign players for the type of fees that Pereira set them back. The reality is that whilst Al Hilal are still state-owned, their number one benefactor is one of the richest men in Saudi Arabia, and he is believed to have upped the ante in terms of his donations to the club in recent times. Al-Walid bin Talil Al Saud was ranked by Forbes as the 7th richest man in the world with a net worth of $39.8 billion in 2017, though he hasn't featured in any of Forbes' World Billionaires lists since 2017 due to the magazine considering his financial situation to be too opaque and accurate information too difficult to source to give him an accurate ranking. You won't be particularly surprised to discover that Al-Walid is part of the House of Saud, Saudi Arabia's ruling royal family, like just about every billionaire within the kingdom. He is also the CEO and 95% shareholder of the Kingdom Holding Company, which is one of the largest companies and conglomerates within Saudi Arabia. Al Walid owns one of the largest yachts in the world, which was originally built for the Saudi arms dealer Adnan Khashoggi and named Nabila, and appeared in the James Bond film Never Say Never Again. Khashoggi actually sold the yacht to Donald Trump, who renamed it Princess Trump, but after the American landed in financial trouble during the 1980s, Al Walid bought the yacht off him, returning it to Saudi Arabia and renaming it Kingdom 5KR. Has a single yacht ever had so many rogues aboard it? Probably yes, they seem to be a bit of a magnet for them. Al Walid was actually arrested in 2017 and detained at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh as part of a government anti-corruption drive, with allegations against him, including money laundering, bribery, and extorting officials. But in the end, he was released from detention following a financial settlement, which sort of seems to go against the principles of an anti-corruption drive, but oh well. I'll try not to get too lost any further down the Al Walid rabbit hole, but basically, he is a billionaire prince and a big fan of Al Hilal. In 2014, he is reported to have bought every member of the Al Hilal squad and the team's manager a brand new Bentley as a prize for them winning the league title. Just a few months later, he supposedly offered every player a $26,000 bonus if they beat Australian outfit Western Sydney Wanderers in the final of the AFC Champions League. Unfortunately for the Al Hilal players, they lost 1-0. Al Walid became even more formally involved with the club in 2017, but it is important to note that this is nothing out of the ordinary in Saudi Arabian football. Pretty much every team is affiliated with one or typically multiple princes, and the more you have, and the wealthier they are, the more money you're likely to receive. Take Al Nasir, who, like Al Hilal, form 1/5 of Saudi Arabia's Big Five, alongside Al Shabab, Al Ahly, and Al Ittihad. Al Nasir are bankrolled to a large extent by Khalid bin Faisal Al Saud, the son of Saudi Arabia's former ruler, King Faisal, who recently paid off all of the club's existing debts, as well as promising to fund the signing of 2 foreign players. Saudi Arabian clubs are largely at the behest of numerous Saudi princes and rely on their goodwill and generosity to keep on spending. Al Ittihad, who are widely regarded as being the oldest Saudi sports club, founded before the actual founding of Saudi Arabia, found this out the hard way when the club amassed enormous amounts of debt, but couldn't find a prince or businessman willing to bail them out. Following their financial struggles, Al Ittihad fans nicknamed themselves the People's Club since they weren't being bankrolled to the same extent as other clubs. When Mohammed bin Salman became Saudi Arabia's de facto commander-in-chief, he sought to change this reliance on individual princes and increase state subsidies to clubs, as well as the drive for clubs to increase their own revenues through more conventional measures. Bin Salman effectively paid off the Saudi Pro League team's debts, but put in place regulations to try and prevent teams from getting into debt in the future, basically banning them from signing players whilst they still had debt on their books, a bit like an extra stringent version of FFP. He also introduced a system whereby teams receive funding based on their performance within the Saudi Pro League. So, the better you perform, the more money you get. In that sense too, Salman's rules acted a little like FFP in cementing the status quo, and like the opposite of the draft system in US sports, which is designed to benefit teams who perform the worst each season to try and increase competition and restrict hegemonies. Teams were also set targets by Saudi Arabia's Football Association which, if they met, the league will or would cover the costs of one of their foreign players. It is supposed to work as an incentive system, not too dissimilar from the prize money that Premier League teams receive based upon their final league position, just much more significant given the size of the incentives and the much smaller alternative revenue streams. There's no doubt that the amount of money swimming around in Saudi Arabian football has increased in recent years, and the recent arrivals of the likes of Paulinho, Talisca, and Pereira are testament to that fact. Whether this is a long-term shift and a move towards building a sustainable, highly regarded league that can attract players for reasons other than just huge wages and low taxes still remains to be seen. We have seen similar efforts all over the world, most notably recently in China, which have been fraught with difficulties and which I've covered on this channel in the past. If nothing else, Saudi Arabia started allowing women to attend football matches at the start of 2018, so, That is half of the country's population right there, and would seem to be a pretty sensible start if you want to increase attendances. Before I leave you, I would like to say a big thank you to all of the Saudi Arabian football fans who helped me put together this video, especially Omar, who let me pick his brains for about an hour and didn't even get too upset when I started asking questions that veered away from the topic of football. I always say that one of the things that I love about my job is getting to talk to people from all over the world, and what you'll find is that regardless of what you might think of different rulers and regimes, the vast majority of actual people united in the context of talking to me solely through a love of football really aren't that different, and are largely very decent. So thank you to everyone who helped me out with that one. It simply would not have been possible to make this video without you due to the lack of English language resources out there. I'm well aware that this is a pretty obscure one for most people, but, this is HITC Sevens at the end of the day. What did you expect? Thank you all as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you did enjoy today's video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on for the only YouTube channel that tends to talk about things like Saudi Arabian football, and that is HITC Sevens. Oh, and you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram, or both, by the username @HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.